Hello students, today we are going to start the chapter number 4 of history, that is the age of industrialization. In this lesson we are going to study how the industrialization took place, where it took place first, how it came to our country. So let's get started. Chapter number 4, the age of industrialization. Before we actually move to the lesson, let us do the picture study. The first picture that you can see over here, it is dawn of the century. In 1900, the popular music publisher E.T. Paul produced a book with a picture on cover page, Dawn of the Century. In the center is the goddess-like figure, the angel of progress, bearing a flag of new century. See, she is perched on a wheel with wings symbolizing time. Her flight is taking her to the future. Floating behind her are the signs of progress, that is railways, camera, machines, printing press and factory. In the second picture, which is named as Two Magicians. In the above picture, which was published in the trade magazine over 100 of years ago, it shows two magicians. The one on the top is Aladdin from the Orient, who built beautiful palaces with a magic lamp. The one at the bottom is a modern mechanic who with his modern tools weaves a new magic, builds bridges, ships, towers and high-rise buildings. Aladdin is shown representing the East and the past. The mechanic stands for West and modernity. These images offer a triumphant account of the modern world. Within this account, the modern world is associated with rapid technological changes, innovations, machines, etc. The history of industrialization does represent the story of development and modern age that appears to the time of technological progress. So in this chapter, students, we will look at this history by focusing on the first industrial nation, followed by our country, where industrial changes was conditioned to colonial rule, how we developed our own industries. Before the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, industrial production meant factory production and industrial workers meant factory workers. Even before factories began to appear in England and Europe, there was large-scale industrial production for the international market. This was not dependent on factories. Many historians refer to this phase as proto-industrialization. In other words, it was a period before or beginning of industrialization. Then we come to expansion of world trade. World trade has expanded at a very fast rate during the 17th and 18th century. The producers in the towns failed to produce the required quantity. The merchants could not expand production within town as urban crafts and trade guilds were very powerful and restricted the entry of new people into the trade. What are guilds? Guilds are association of producers that maintain control over production, regulated competition and prices in the trade for a specific product. These trade guilds, they had the right of the production and trade for the specific products, and rules were granted to different guilds accordingly. So new merchants, they moved to the countryside. They supplied money to the poor peasants and artisans, persuaded them to produce for international market. Development of proto-industrial system. In countryside, many cottagers and poor peasants who were dependent on common land for their survival had to look now in search of alternative source of income. This was a time when open fields were disappearing and commons were being enclosed. Since the income from their tiny plots of land was not sufficient for their livelihood, so they eagerly agreed to the proposals given by the merchants and made products for them. This made it possible for the peasants and cottagers to remain in the countryside and continue to cultivate their small lands. Now this led to development of close relationship between the town and the countryside. The merchants were based in towns, but work was mostly done in the countryside. A merchant clothier in England purchased wool from stapler and carried it to the spinner. The yarn that was spun was taken to subsequent stages of production to weavers, fullers and then to dyers. The finishing was done in London before the cloth was exported to the international market. Thus, London was known as finishing centre. Coming of the factory. The earliest factories in England came up by the 1730s, but the number of factories multiplied in the late 18th century. Cotton textile was the main industry at that time. Its production boomed in the late 19th century. In 1760 to 1787, the import of raw cotton soared to 22 million pounds from 2.5 million pounds. In the 19th century, series of invention increased the efficacy of each step for production, that includes carding, twisting, spinning, rolling, etc. This enhanced the total output of the workers. Then comes emergence of mills. Richard Arkwright, he created the first cotton mill. Within that mill, all the processes were brought together in one roof, and management. This overall careful supervision was not possible in case of production in the countryside. The factory system increased largely in England. In the early 19th century, factories became an intimate part of England's landscape. Merchants concentrated their attention on the mills, neglecting the workshops of countryside where production still continued. This is all for today, students. Tomorrow we are going to start with the pace of industrial changes.